Hey folks, John here, Old Hickory Forge. Welcome back. If it's your first time here, welcome. So, what's going on today? I'm out here in the workshop. It's Halloween and I got a pretty cool idea. So, what I want to make is a 3-pound rounding hammer, but I kind of want to go with a Halloween theme. If you watched a few of my videos, you've seen me use some of my personal hammers that have this neat little skull face on them. This wasn't my idea. I borrowed it from Michael Hoops at Cold Township Forge. This is his kind of signature style. And I liked it, thought it was cool, so I borrowed it for some of my personal hammers. But what I want to make is something kind of like this, but with a jack-o'-lantern face. So we're going to need to make some special punches. I got a couple of billets to start with. Hammers always need to be worked on 2 at a time. So we're going to forge up a couple 3-pound hammers and go from there. Also, quick note, if you used to follow me on Facebook, you'll now see that the Old Hickory Forge page is gone, as well as my personal Facebook page. I did end up getting completely banned. And if you're wondering what I did, there are a few people in the comments on the last video where I mentioned it who were asking what I did, and a few people who I actually had to block and delete their comments because they were assuming I had done something really horrible and were slinging some really vile accusations. But what happened, basically, a buddy of mine, a black dude, had posted a meme making fun of the Little Mermaid being black. And I commented and I was like, wait a minute, they made the Little Mermaid black? Well, sorry, bud, I'm a racist now. I guess we can't be friends anymore. And he laughed and I laughed and everybody else laughed, but I got banned for that. I'd had a few 7-day bans for similar jokes that were just a little bit too spicy for the AI, but were very clearly jokes. Like, if you're somebody, if you can't look at that and immediately know it's a joke, there's something inherently wrong with the way your brain works, and I can't help you. I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, no, I wasn't, being a Nazi or a terrorist or anything like that. It's just, the AI saw a joke and thought I was really being a racist, and like I said in the last video, I really don't think rebuilding the Old Hickory Forge page from scratch is worth it with how much traffic it got before and how much it would continue to get. I might make a new personal one, I haven't decided yet, because, really I don't miss it very much. Like I said in the last video, Facebook, over the years, has gravitated more and more towards just fake news and stuff to make you angry and paranoid and make you click on ads and make you go turn on the TV and buy whatever crap they're selling you, but anyway, let's get moving on the project. Alrighty, we got our starting billets squared up. They're about 2 inches square by about 3 1/4 inches long. You might ask yourself, why don't I just start with square stock? And the answer is it's prohibitively expensive. It's about 3.5 times the price of round stock. And I've done the math, and for the time it takes, it's cheaper to buy a round stock, and if you have the equipment, to turn it into square stock yourself. Alright, we got our eyes punched in. It's just like punching a hole by hand. You punch most of the way through and then flip it over, line everything up and punch back through, and if you've done everything right, you get a nice clean hole. Next step is to go ahead and get the fullers roughed in. They don't need to be to finished dimensions yet, but we need to go ahead and put them there. So what I got here is a tool. I don't know if it has a name. I call it a place holding drift, but it helps us avoid accidentally pinching the eye of the hammer into the fuller, because you kind of want to get the fullers as close to the eye as you can without actually pinching the eye. That's kind of what looks the best and what gives you the most material to make the faces. So we'll drop this guy in there, drive it in on home, and then rough in our fullers. Nothing to it, really. We got 2 real nice looking 3-pound hammer billets. Next step is to drive the drift into the swage block and go to the press. Using some cheek fullering dies and start spreading the cheeks of the hammer out widthwise. Nothing to it, really. So we got the width we want pulled out of the cheeks. Next step, we're going to put the drift back in, once from each side, flatten out the cheeks under the press using the flat dies so they're nice and smooth. And then we'll use a kiss block under the press, again with the flat dies, to bring the faces to their final dimensions. So what we did there, we just put a bigger place holding drift into the eye, forged the fullers in pretty much to their finished dimensions. We're going to take one more heat with the drift in, break the corners, smooth up the fullers, and then go to the power hammer, break the corners and smooth up the faces and make it look nice. So there we go, 2 real nice 3-pound hammer blanks. Like I said, you always want to work on these 2 at a time whenever you're trying to make money. Downtime between heats and empty forge space are your enemies. So now what I can do is, whichever one I don't use, I'll just mark with a 3 and set off to the side, and next time somebody on my Etsy orders a 3-pound hammer, you know, I'll have one ready to go. I'll just have to finish it out. This can still be made into a cross peen or a straight peen and all that, so, you know, there's a method to the madness. So, something a bit like this is what I want. I got the idea from a good buddy of mine, Jeff Bogdanoff at Whiskey Turtle Forge. You know, he started making hammers like this around Halloween time, and I was like, man, that is so cool. You got to tell me how you did that. And he gave me the idea of how to make this little punch right here, which is going to be a little more difficult. The eyes and the nose are going to be stupid easy. We're just going to make those out of 3/4 round mild steel, grind a triangle on the end, nothing to it. To make this, I've got a piece of 3/4 inch square. We're going to draw out kind of the design we want, and then go in using the grinder, make it flat, bevel the edges, and then go in here with this little triangle file to make the negatives of the teeth so they'll actually appear on our piece. And we're going to try it on a piece of scrap steel before we go to the hammer. And just as a proof of concept, I've already kind of tried this over here to make sure it'll actually work. So let's get moving. So I got my piece that's going to be the stamp for the mouth chucked up in the vise. I'm just going to freehand this with the triangle file. I don't have too much of a plan. So we'll just start roughly in the center and work our way out. That'll do it, really. So that actually didn't take as long as I thought. That triangle file is good and sharp because I never really use it. But you see where the black Sharpie is the pattern we should end up with on the steel. So let's heat up some scrap steel and give it a go before we try it on the hammer. So here's what we got with the first test. I don't hate it, but I do think I'm going to go back and file the teeth out on my mouth stamp some more to try to make them a little more bold. You can also see my work peg was bending before I could really get it in how I liked it, so I ended up just cutting it off. So whenever we go to put it on the hammer, we're just going to have to position it how we like it and take a leap of faith. Alrighty, so on the bottom is the second go, putting the mouth in, making the teeth a little wider. Also just going for it a little harder when I go in for the press, and it looks much better. So that's what we're going to do. We'll go ahead and heat this hammer up and see if we can get it marked. My plan for getting these markings put in, you see I've got the hammer supported on one of my narrow or flat dies. That's because the faces are wider than the cheeks. And if you laid it flat, it would just bend it all out of whack and mess everything up, and it would make more work for us. We're to avoid collapsing the eye, had to give the punching operation some support. We've got our small place holding drift put in there. The hammer's going to be hot. We'll put that in there and see about getting the face put on that bad boy. Hey, you know, especially for my first try, I think that looks pretty stinking cool. Anyway, we'll let that guy cool off and we'll go through all the usual finishing out of hammer steps. We'll grind the faces, clean up the inside of the eye with the die grinder, harden it, temper it, and fit it to a handle. You might be asking yourself, you see a lot of hammer makers, they'll actually use a cupping swage to make the round dies of their hammers. I don't, just because I find it faster just to grind them in. With a good sharp belt, there's maybe 10 minutes of grinding here, or even less. And swaging and squaring and swaging and squaring and chasing it back and forth, that's just going to add a lot more time for an end result that's really no different. That's why my starting stock is actually always half a pound heavy. I start with 3.5 pounds of material for the 3-pound hammer because of how much you're going to lose to scale and grinding. So again, there's a method of the madness. Another to it, really. We got our flat die and our round die roughed in. I actually timed that, I kept the camera on for the whole time to see how long it actually took to rough in the grinds on a rounding hammer, and the answer is about 2.5 minutes with a good sharp belt. So, that's to further illustrate my point about why it is I don't use a cupping swage. On my production hammers, on the ones I sell on Etsy, normally I actually chamfer the top and bottom of these corners as well, because I feel like it just looks a little nicer. But I don't want to risk kind of messing with the face of the hammer at all. So we're going to leave them as is, but next step is to go in here, clean up the eye with the die grinder, break the corners of those edges, and we'll heat treat this guy. This thing was normalized 3 times off camera. You know the drill. 1045, water quench steel. Now let's do it, really. And to temper this guy, I got these little, I call them tempering drips, but they're just little pieces of steel I've shaped out roughly to the shape of a hammer eye, and I heat them up and just drop them in there and let the heat bleed into it. Once the cheeks come to a kind of a blue and you got a nice light brown on the faces, you're good to go. And after the temper, this guy goes into an acid bath for about 20 minutes or so, and that'll just make wire wheeling off the scale much easier. Alrighty, we got the faces dressed up, polished to a nice satin finish, looking nice and spooky. What I should have done, I thought about it while this was in the acid bath. My buddy Jeff, the one I got the idea for this from, he actually blackens his hammers using a beeswax bath, and he gets a really nice soft black, so I should have done that. And then I should have used Osage for the handle. The black and orange would have been a cool Halloween theme. But unfortunately, I didn't think about that, so we're just going to go with our trusty ash. Hung up actually quite beautifully on the first try. Fitted real nice. So, there we have it. Pretty stinking cool, I think. It's already getting dark outside, so I can't really do the close-ups where the lighting's not quite so harsh, but you get the idea. So there we go. One super spooky jack-o'-lantern hammer. I had a lot of fun making this. This came out pretty stinking cool, especially for my first try. It all kind of really came together more or less the way I thought it would. No major hiccups or anything like that. But like I said, I had a lot of fun making this. If I do it again, I might do it a little bit differently. I don't know what I'll do next Halloween. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But anyway, what I'm going to do with this guy is we're going to do a surprise Patreon giveaway. So if you're new to the channel and you don't know, I do giveaways once every 3 months specific to those who support me on Patreon. As little as $1 a month gets you in. Link down in the description if you want to check it out. That being said, I do have a bad habit of coming in late with them. September's, we still actually haven't done September's, but the reason for that is the project I had planned for that giveaway just went really, really sideways, and we had to essentially throw it out and readjust fire. And we're doing something else that's going to be really cool, and that's going to be coming soon. I'll get it done before December, and then we'll have a December's quarterly giveaway on time if all goes according to plan, which, if you know me, it rarely does. But anyway, let's pick us a winner. Alrighty, so what we got here, all the patrons of the channel, this is downloaded directly from Patreon right before I do this, so it's completely accurate. The reason I bring that up is because the ending credits in the videos aren't always super accurate. We're adjusting those at the start of each month now, so you know, it might not be accurate all month depending on when you sign up. Say you sign up on the 15th, you won't actually be on the ending credits until next month, but whenever I do this, I do it directly from the page. So if you're a patron, your name's on here. Click to spin. Brian Ferguson. So, Brian Ferguson, if you want the hammer, she's yours. Just get in touch with me, get me your shipping info, and I'll get this guy sent out to you. But that's all I got for you. If you like what you saw, like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Always more cool stuff coming. Links down below to the Instagram if you want to follow me, which is where I'm the most active. I try to post to the story every day, so if you want to stay up to date with the goings-on here at the shop, that's the best place to do it. Links to the Patreon if you want to come become a supporter and get in on all the awesome giveaways. Let's see, link to the Etsy if you want to purchase any of my work. I put out a few new items this fall, and you know, holiday season's coming up, so if you want to grab a gift, now's the time to do it. If you have Christmas orders, it's best to get them in as far ahead of time as possible. But like I said, that's all I got for you. I had a really great time making this thing, and I hope it lives a good life. Y'all take care. Happy Halloween.